remote, regularly monthly meeting of the Kitsap County Parks Board Advisory Group. We will do our best to facilitate a smooth meeting with public participation and ask that everyone be patient as we navigate this electronic platform. We have two formats for participation, the Zoom web application as well as teleconference. Before we begin, I want to review some guidelines and general instructions for the meeting. Please silence all other communication devices such as your cell or desk phone. This will ensure that we're not hearing any feedback or causing interruptions during the meeting. During the meeting, all participants on Zoom, except for board members and county staff, will be placed on mute by the host. That means that you will not be able to mute or unmute your lines manually. The chair will announce opportunities for public comment, which are included on the meeting agenda. For those on Zoom, if you would like to make public comment, please click on raise the hand feature to signal that you would like to comment. The sound will be unmuted and the internet participant should announce their first and last name before speaking. The participant will be called upon to speak at an appropriate time. For those calling in using the phone line only, if you would like to make public comment, please dial *99 on your keypad to signal that you would like to comment. The last 4 digits of the call-in number will be announced, and call-in participants should announce their first and last names before speaking. The participant will be called upon to speak at the appropriate time. Please note, you can hang up or leave the Zoom meeting at any time. Decorum for this meeting, please adhere to the speaker time limit. Please treat others with courtesy and civility and respect the public meeting process. Rules prohibiting the use of signs or posters remain in effect for video participation. Profanity, discriminatory comments, or obscene gestures is also prohibited. Disorderly, unruly, or aggressive behavior that infringes upon the rights of others or disrupts the good working order of the meeting is also prohibited. Any violation of the above rules can result in the mic being muted, your video feed shut off, and you'll be dropped from the phone or Zoom meeting lines. Thank you for listening to these instructions, and now we will proceed with the regular agenda. Welcome, I'm Joanne Clark, and I would like to start with introductions with the Park Board.
John Pearson, Central District.
Nancy Whitaker, Central.
Linda Berry Mare, North Kitsap.
Lisa Hurt, North Kitsap.
Joanne Clark,
Brady
South
Martin,
Kitsap.
North Kitsap. Oh, sorry.
Brady Martin. No,
North
you're good,
Kitsap.
Brady. Sorry. Okay. And now the park staff, please.
Alex Wisniewski, County Parks.
Brian Hoschel, Kitsap County Parks.
Thank you.
You were muted there, Arno.
He's unmuted now.
Hear him. Can't hear you.
Yeah, Arno, we're not getting any sound from you any longer. Well, that's Arno Bergstrom with Kitsap County Parks.
Working better.
Hey, there you go.
There we go.
Hey.
That was going to make for an interesting agenda.
All right. I could go with just the speaker and the microphone and the laptop too, but I got to wear earbuds. I'm out on my front porch and it's pick up less of the background noise. Hummingbirds that are buzzing around.
Okay. I would like to ask for the adoption of the May 18th, 2022 meeting minutes, or if anyone has any corrections or additions they'd like to add. Lisa?
Yeah, there is one correction from the public comment. I wasn't at the meeting, but I did receive one in the mail from Beverly Parsons. The comment that was posted that she made was incorrect. And she's requesting that it's changed to, she's requested a need for an open public meeting concerning the complex issues surrounding the Port Campbell Forest Heritage Park, prior to sending recommendations to the commissioners. So that's what her comment was.
And Alex, who do we have that corrects these?
Staff, I'm taking notes, so
Okay,
we'll
Okay.
make corrections to indicate Beverly Parsons' comments included a request or the desire for an open public meeting prior to the Port Gamble Master Plan draft going to the county commissioners.
okay, thank you. Are there any more changes or additions? Okay, then we need to call for a motion to accept the minutes as corrected.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we will have a public comment 3-minute limit per person, starting now. Any public comment, now is your turn. Raise your hand or hit *9 on the phone.
Joanne, Beverly has her hand up.
Oh, I can't see everyone for some reason.
Oh.
Okay,
Going
sorry,
down.
Beverly.
Oh, no problem. First of all, Alex, the comment that was in the May meeting, I didn't make at all. So just erase that. Don't just include what Lisa just read. It
Okay,
replaces
understood.
what was there. So I just wanted to clarify that. So anyway, I'm Beverly Parsons from Hansville. And I wanted to make a comment about the North STO Trail Planning Study Open House next week. And I see that the Kitsap County Public Works Department has the project page up about the planning meeting, and they've listed items in events and documents between 2011 and 2022 related to the STO, but they don't have any park documents listed. And because this segment of the STO is so close to the North Kitsap Heritage Park, I was hoping that you folks could ensure that the parks, the 2018 Parks, Recreation and Open Space Plan and the deed of right for the east half of the North Kitsap Park could be posted there so that people who come to the open house would be able to see those documents. And there are a couple of reasons that to me they were important. Both of those documents emphasize habitat and wildlife protection. And for example, that deed of right actually says the grantor should take such reasonable and feasible measures as are necessary to protect the real property in perpetuity. Such measures should be consistent with the purpose of the project agreement, including protecting, preserving, restoring, and enhancing the habitat function of that particular property, including the wetlands, streams, and mature forest habitat. So I was hoping that could be done. And then as far as the pros plan, I was particularly interested in being sure that the public saw that there are goals in there to support the protection of native wildlife and flora. It talks about protecting those forests or those areas, including protecting riparian corridors, watersheds, and other habitat. So I just wanted to, as the parks, you as representatives of the parks, that you could help ensure that the public saw those documents that have to do with protection of some of the areas of the park. So thank you very much. That was my comment.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak from the public?
Joe Lubisher has his hand up.
I can only see 5 people.
Okay. Joe, go ahead.
Thank you. Just as an addendum to Beverly's comment, there's another important document, which is the Kingston Recycled Water Facilities Plan that was finalized, I believe, 2020. It's a document that's already in the supporting documents for the study, and it's highly relevant to what level of development is going to be done to the North Kitsap Heritage Park. So that's another piece of information that would
Okay.
make the project page more accurate. Thank you.
Thank you. I can see more people now, but I don't see any more hands up.
I received a email or not to me directly, but into the department, an email comment where they asked that this be read aloud at the meeting. So I'm going to go ahead and read that. It says, "Dear Parks Advisory Board members, my name is Sue DeArmond and I've resided in North Kitsap since 1987. Thank you for giving me a chance to have my concerns regarding the North Kitsap Heritage Park and Port Gamble Forest Heritage Park read. My concerns are regarding the proposed Sound to Olympics trail that will go through both heritage parks. I am also concerned that the draft master plan in the Port Gamble Forest Heritage Park will be passed before we have fully studied the issues. I am asking that more thought and research go into the effects these trails will have on the amphibians, wildlife, and the plant life that live there. Please complete the studies that were started but not finished regarding the streams and wetlands. Think about the impact these trails through our parks will have far into the future. Wildlife and plant life continues to decline at an alarming rate. We must keep in mind that our responsibility is to protect life and not harm it further. In surveys taken by the North Kitsap Trails Association, the highest priority overall and the highest priority in every community and in every group was walking trails. Goal 3 in the STO trail plan under goals and objectives states they will, quote, maintain the natural landscape while building trails, unquote. That certainly is not the case in the Port Gamble Forest Heritage Park along the Hood Trail. It also states that we will, quote, recognize wetlands and animal corridors and trail systems by considering aquatic, plant, and wildlife habitat, unquote. I feel we must do more than just consider these habitats. We must make it a priority to protect these vitally important habitats. Has the goal of coordinating with community naturalists / scientists in trail development happened? If so, why are our North Kitsap Heritage Park stewards greatly concerned about the STO going down steep grades and crossing wetlands? I am asking that we step back, take more time to study these issues so that we can form a plan that we can all be proud of in the future of Kitsap County Parks. Thank you, Sue DeArmond.
Thank you, Alex. Are there any more public speakers tonight? Seeing none, we'll move on to special presentations and reports. And that shows that we don't have any this evening. The next will be Parks Report on Wicks Lake Forest Stewardship Plan by Arno Bergstrom. We can't hear you, Arno.
Working now?
Yes.
I don't know. If it's blank on me, I can hear you, all right?
Arno, we can't, you're very quiet.
Can you turn your mic up?
Gonna have to,
There, that's better.
you can hear me now?
We can hear you
Oh,
now.
yeah.
All right. The whole world can hear me now and hear you too. I got to turn your volume up. All right. Yeah. Arnold Bergstrom. I'm the Community Parks County Community Forester, and I'm also the Natural Resources Supervisor, which now consists of what formerly were called volunteer coordinators, of which we have 3. So we've a division or a team of has been formed in the department to focus on natural resources restoration and management, ecological management. And I guess just to give, for some of you that are really new, I know John and I think Linda Berry, Murray, you've heard this stuff before. I think Nancy Whitaker, you're a little bit familiar with it, but a lot of you are new. Back in October of 2012, the Board of Commissioners adopted a policy on integrated forest stewardship for county-owned lands, most of which are park lands. And that policy created the program that I've been leading for the last 9 years. And one of the processes that we go through with any park or all parks is I develop, usually with a forest stewardship group and or community members that are available and willing and interested, develop a forest stewardship plan for the park. Tonight we're talking about Wicks Lake. Once that plan is developed, it's a plan that has a 10-year horizon. That's pretty typical for forest stewardship plans that really across the United States and or any forest management plan, historically speaking. And so the idea is that the plan is worked on by park stewards and community members with me, and involves often field work and writing. It's different with every group. Some groups are more hands-on in the writing and so on. The first forest stewardship plan we had that was adopted was for Newberry Hill Heritage Park. We've done one for what was before the full breadth and depth of Port Gamble. There was a plan adopted and for Port Gamble Forest Heritage Park, but that definitely needs to be revised because it doesn't cover the whole acreage, the whole 3,500 acres. And then another one was developed with the stewards for North Kitsap Heritage Park. Another one was developed for Coulter Creek Heritage Park, which include Calvinwood and actually included Square Lake. Once those plans are developed, then we go ahead and we implement the selective or restoration thinning. And so it's been since 2017 since I brought a new plan. It's actually an old plan, but it's a new to you because it was developed in 2019. But with COVID and everything else going on, it's one of the victims of that lost 2 years, the 2 years we lost. And so the Parks Advisory Board has not had the opportunity to do their part and to review a plan such as this since November of 2017. That was the Coulter Creek, Calvinwood, and Square Lake plan. All those previous plans plus the policy, they're all on the website under the forestry or forest stewardship icon. If you want to, put yourself to sleep sometime in the evening, start reading some of that stuff. There's a format for it. It's actually based on a national, state, and the county adopted a format. It includes certain resource categories. The plan that you got, unfortunately, late, and probably didn't have time to do any more than thumb through it. You can see a little bit about it in terms of all the plans are done in that style. Okay. The only park I've ever done any work in that didn't have a plan, it's not like I'm saying we broke the law here or anything like that, but we were having some really significant problems at South Kitsap Regional Park with there was a lot of laminated root rot and other forms of root rot at South Kitsap Regional. And so it was one of those risk assessment deals, and I did a 100-acre thinning project there in 2017, but that park broke with protocol. Okay, and it was not even a park I ever intended to ever. I knew the problem was there, but I never intended to go into that park and really do any kind of work like I did. But that was decided at higher levels. Okay, so we're back to following the protocol. And Wicks Lake is a really interesting park. I tried to do some research, but I was having some problem getting on my SharePoint here at home. And the park's been in our system for quite a while, and it has a lake. It has a lake. That's why it's called Wicks Lake Park. The first iteration of the park was something between a 12 and 15-acre lake at the very end of that dogleg off the very end of Wicks Lake Road in South Kitsap County. And it's South Wicks Lake Road is off of Lake Helena Road. If you've been down that way, it's a beautiful lake. It's one of our most intact lakes in our park system, probably one of the most intact lakes in Kitsap County. What I mean by that is there's no private development, no lots or homes or cabins on the lake. It's entirely natural. Okay. And as such, it's designated as a natural shoreline by the environmental group at DCD. Just like the shoreline, Port Gamble Bay, they've identified all kinds of, Newberry Hill has actually beaver ponds that have been identified as natural areas. Nearly all of our parks have natural areas in them. And the buffers on a natural area, a natural shoreline is 200 feet. That exceeds what the Department of Natural Resources requires in terms of their forest practices rules. But that's okay. That's perfectly fine. The other thing that I want to, people ask how big is Wicks Lake, they'll say, oh, 150 acres or 170 acres or something like that. But one of the things I guess I want to take a moment, being a professor emeritus at WSU, is educate you on something. Lakes that are identified and classified as lakes in the state of Washington, the land and the shoreline along those lakes are not owned by private citizens, or for that matter, even municipalities. That land is controlled and owned by the Washington State Department of Natural Resources. And it's also described as any navigable water, but there's some other definitions about lakes. And so when I was trying to figure out, is it 170 acres, as some people say, is it 150 acres? Well, it's probably closer to 170 acres of total area, including the land underwater. In 1965, Wicks Lake Park was about, it existed, and it was probably, because it goes way back, it was probably 15 acres, and it had waterfront on the lake. Okay. And then in the more recent past, in the early 2000s, there were two acquisitions made by the Board of Commissioners. One acquisition to the north, some of the land that was belonged to the McCormick family, or McCormick Timber and Land Company. And then another acquisition was made to the south along Wicks Lake Road that adjoins the park as it was, and that was with from Alpine Evergreen. So now, I believe, as far as if you add up all the acres on the parcels, if you were to go to the assessors and add it up, you add up all the parcels, it's about 150 acres. But what's interesting, and I say 1965, I was pretty young in 1965. But at the time, the lake was only 9 acres in 1965. And because of those really, really great and healthy beaver, the lake is now 20 acres. And it's the elevation of the water, or the depth of the water has been increased. We're estimating about 5 feet. So the lake is big. There was a lake there. It was relatively small, 9 acres, and there were some backwater wetlands to the east of what was considered to be a lake. Now those backwater wetlands, and I'll show you a map. Or if you've got that document, if you've got 2 screens or you printed it out, there is a map there. I see Joanne's got it. Looks like Lisa has it. And in the document gets on page 13. It's a satellite image of the park. Okay. And I can always also share a screen. I've got it up on my, but I've never done that. So I suppose Chuck's still there. He could help. I don't know. Let's see.
I can share my screen.
I'll throw it up there, Arno.
Oh, here it is. Yeah. Yeah, I can hit share. Is it there now?
It's rolling in. Here it is. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so that's you know,
We're seeing 2 pages, Arno, just so you
oh,
know.
that's all right, because I want you to see the other pages as well. So anyhow, so it's a relatively small lake. I don't know if does my cursor work on this?
Yes.
You see me moving it?
Yes.
All the land, here's Wicks Lake Road is right here. That line. And it goes up to here and it goes down. And right here, there was a little piece of strip of land on both sides of this dogleg right-hand turn off the end of Wicks Lake Road. That was the original park. And then the county bought this land up here and all the way around to here. And then they bought, I think at a later date, sometime in the early to mid 2000s, I don't remember the dates. They bought 65 acres from Alpine Evergreen. Okay. And so the park consists of all the land surrounding the lake, which is really nice. It's really, really nice. There's the lake, and the lake used to be really smaller than it is now, but because the elevation of the water is 5 feet more water based on these records I found from 1965. So now this is all part of the lake by definition. Okay. And so it all has a 200-foot buffer around it. All right. And then there's a wetland complex that kind of flows up here. And so this map shows the buffers that I would be using when we do the restoration or selective thinning. Then I broke it down into units. It's more this corner, that corner kind of thing. This upper area is unit 1. This area is unit 2. Unit 3 is delineated out because it's actually an old Christmas tree plantation that Alpine established. These are younger trees. They're pretty old. They're actually 43, 44 years old, or will be by August of this year, because that's when they'll stop growing. So this is kind of a unique area right here. All the white lines in here that are around the park, those are old roads. Some people would call them trails, but they're actually old roads that either Alpine created and or McCormick created. That whole, and this is just the way it works. They have been used over time by people walking their dogs and so on. But, the other thing I want to point out, what's also really unique about this park, especially given its size, is right here. Let's see what I did. I don't know what I did there, but now I've got, oh, there you go. So from right here, all this property that I'm zigzagging on, all the way around here, 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 and down to this red line, that's all owned by investors. And so that land will be at some point, I can't say when. They've held it almost 10 years. It's coming up on 10 years. But that land is probably destined to be developed. Okay. In other words, there would be housing developments surrounding Wicks Lake Park.
And I can't zoom this out, but to the north of the lake up here, it's land. It goes, the investment land goes all the way up to Lake Flora Road. To the north, the only two big properties that are not owned by the investors are Pilgrim Firs Church Camp and Trophy Lake Golf Course. But all the land between that goes up to where the roundabout, if you're at all familiar with that area, there's a roundabout now on Lake Flora Road and Dickerson, and the investment land goes all the way to the roundabout. So this park will be surrounded by people living in homes at some point down the road, and I think that's important to recognize. Let's see. So for some of you who are new to the Parks Advisory Board, you probably haven't a chance. Well, we haven't a chance to meet and talk, and let me, I guess, try and educate you on what the Forest Stewardship Program does. But we're doing, and I'm trying to do that tonight as best I can. We do basically, we're using an ecological forest management approach, which is totally different than what I was trained when I went to forestry school. I was trained in more of the German style industrial tree farming, growing trees like corn or wheat or any crop you could name it. The ecological approach is more to try and have a more natural ecosystem. And in a park setting, the idea would be that that's exactly what you would want. You're going to do restoration through selective thinning to try and basically mimic what would have occurred had we humans, especially Europeans, not cropped it so many times. It's not as bad as back east or New England or in the South, Florida and all the southern states where we're really, a lot of the trees that are being planted today are fourth generation. First generation was old growth, second generation was second growth, and a lot of the third generation, some of that's being harvested now. And the trees that are replacing those trees that are being planted is the fourth generation. Whereas you go down into the, Carolinas and Georgia, they're in the high 20s as far as the number of turnovers of timber that they've had there. So it's bad, but it's not as bad as it is in the southeastern U.S. But anyhow, and the science behind this is based on how does a natural forest grow, develop, and change over time. And there's been 100 years of or more of science. There's people studying that. They're forest ecologists. When I was in college studying forestry, we only had one of those people, maybe two. We didn't really even study under them for undergraduate coursework. You had to be a graduate student before you got into some of that stuff. But now you can actually get a degree in forest ecology. WSU has one right now, and my summer helper this year he's graduating that next year. So, but the point is that there's new approaches to this thing. We're not clear cutting. We're doing selective thinning. We're trying to remove or convert it from a Douglas fir monoculture, and arguably most areas of Wicks Lake Park are that. There's some white pine out there. Great, I love white pine. That's actually my favorite tree. But in places there's some other pines too, but and some hemlock and some cedar and stuff. But it's largely dominated by Douglas fir. And so the whole idea is to thin those trees out and release the other trees, the non-Douglas fir trees, which by the way are also, I don't want to get too deep into this, but they're more shade tolerant. They're there because they can survive even if the Douglas fir are dominating them. So open it up and let those trees have their good portion of the light, moisture, and nutrients. And the thinning is done. I've thinned trees that are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, even some stands that are 90 to 110 years old. And there's a science that supports that too. People want big trees. This is also what it's about. We want to preserve. So when we're thinning, we leave the biggest and best Douglas fir. They're bigger and better for a reason, and that is that they express their dominance over other Douglas fir. And so what we do is remove the smaller trees, smaller Douglas fir trees, and leave the bigger trees. And as trees grow, they need more room. So a tree that's, if you have a grouping of trees, or a stand as it's called, of trees that has a 10-inch diameter, you would probably leave over 100 trees per acre after you thin, probably 110, 120 trees per acre. If you had a stand where the average diameter was approaching, say, over 16 to 17 inches, you would remove more Douglas fir. You would have fewer trees per acre in that stand, because the bigger trees need more. The bigger Douglas fir need more room. And then if you get into trees where the average diameter is 20, 25 inches, then you would create more space. The other thing we do is, with the help of a small army of volunteers, is we do some underplanting of shade tolerant native tree species, pine, white pine, hemlock, and in the damper areas, some cedar. That's kind of the way of kind of describing it. The table on the right-hand side, it's called Appendix 2. It describes those 4 units. Unit 1, it's Douglas fir, the age 77. The net acres means the areas that are not in the, outside the buffer, that could be thin, is 33 acres. The number of trees per acre is 178. The basal area, which is, it's a metric that's really old, but the number is 178. And what it means is, if you take all the cross sections of all the trees in an acre, and they're circles, they're not perfect circles, and you converted that into a square feet per acre, that's how many square feet of wood is out there. And that measurement's taken at 4.5 feet above the ground. That's a standard for pretty much everything. But the idea is, and when that number is greater than 135, that means that trees are stressed. That's the general guideline for Douglas fir. The site index reflects the site quality. It says the trees would be 111 feet tall at age 50. The volume per acre is based on, we cruised it, and there's, in unit 1, there's 35,000 board feet, 0.6 board feet per acre. And then relative density is a number that I use to determine how much we remove and when we've removed enough. And that's a function of the square of the basal area, and that diameter out to the right of there, it says 13.6 inches, the quadratic mean diameter, and the trees per acre. There's a formula for that, and it gives you this, we'll call it an index. It's called relative density. And for a healthy forest, just forget, I'm not going to forget about wildlife, but a healthy forest, just trees getting along good and being really healthy and thriving, you don't want a number that's approaching 50. You want a number that's probably below 45. If you want to favor wildlife, which that's been my bias, then you want a number closer to 35. And so that's usually my target relative density. And so when we're thinning, I'm monitoring usually daily, depending if they're moving into a new area, and making sure that they've not taken, that they've taken enough and not too much of the trees out. So that kind of explains those categories. There's a narrative about the prescription. and basically, well, the current condition, it's a simple single canopy dominated by Douglas fir. And then the prescription is we want to bring the relative density down to between 30 and 35 there. And then unit 2 is down below. That kind of surrounds, that's the alpine property we bought, and it's basically the same age class. And trees are a little smaller. There's more trees per acre, significantly more. And the relative density is a little bit less because the trees are smaller, but would still bring it down some. And then NAP unit 3, that's a 43, 44-year-old plantation, 7 acres. There's a lot of trees per acre there, almost 280. And it has pretty high relative density, but the trees it's good ground, and the trees are actually pretty big. Well, that for 43 years old, that's pretty good. That's a good size tree. And then let's see here. I'll show you. Here's the part for unit 4. That's over on this side right here. And it is, the Douglas fir there are 77 years old. There's 25 acres outside the buffers. There's 148 trees per acre. Look at the basal areas, pretty low. And the volume per acre, because the trees are older, and I guess that's not a lot of volume, but the relative density is 23 over there on the east side of the lake. And main reason there is because there's a lot of shore pine over there, another particular pine, lots of it over there. There's like pure stands of it. And that really affected the average. So the prescription for that is to do nothing, because the relative density is actually low. It's perfect for wildlife. And one of the community members that's been advising on this process is a bit of an ornithologist, and that's his favorite part of this park. He lives on Wicks Lake Road, guided by the name of Ken Brown. And he was talking about it with me just a little over a week ago, how wonderful that area is. So the idea is unit 4 would not be touched. Okay. The other thing I want to tell you about this park is the people that live in and around this park really love this lake. It really is a favorite swimming lake. A lot of families will take their, family members will go up, they'll take their children up there in the summer and go swimming. It's not as formal as like Horseshoe Lake, but it's very popular. And they love this lake. And this lake has been in our system since before the 80s. I don't know exactly when it was. And there are people that still live out there that can tell you stories about their children grown and gone. They got grandchildren now. And I suspect the grandchildren have visited, and they've gone swimming down in Wicks Lake. If you've never been to that lake, you owe it to yourself to go see it. It is incredible. You can drive to the end of the road and walk down to the beach. It's not really a beach, and it's incredible. It's spectacular. And I got a little glossary here for some of this stuff, but this is just I took this from the plan. It's in the plan, but this is kind of the meat of it. So the other thing I guess I want to say is a 77-year-old tree and there's some really big, there's actually some old growth out there. In the north end on unit 1, there's 3 or 4 old growth trees. There's a really big one in unit 2. Well, actually it's in unit 1, just south of the Dog Leg Road that goes down to the lake. It's got to be like 800-900 years old. It's huge. It's a huge tree. It's beautiful. I don't even know why it was left. I couldn't see any evidence of defect in it. But anyhow, so I don't know, what questions do you have about the lake or this park and my recommendations for some restoration work there? I see Linda's got her paw.
Yeah, Arno, I was wondering if you can just give us a quick summary. I know you said that you aren't planning to touch, take any trees out of Area 4, which had old trees. We have three
No,
other,
Unit 4 has fewer trees per acre.
but it has the trees that average 77 years old.
Well,
That's pretty unusual age trees in Kitsap County, so I'm concerned about that.
why? That's
Well,
not that's a young tree. That's not even a mature tree.
77?
Well,
Maybe I'm used to our North Kitsap Heritage Parks because,
you're hanging out with you've hung out with Pope and Rainier too much. 'Cause
well,
they,
no, North Kitsap Heritage Park, Port Gamble Parks,
Yeah.
it's rare to have a tree that age. And I know that, the trees, what I have understood is that the trees just south of Port Gamble, still within the master plan, are some of the oldest trees in the county other than down by the Mountaineers. So I do think our typical parks don't have 80-year-old trees.
Banner Forest probably would average over 80 years.
Okay, so my concern is just, I know you gave us a whole lot of detailed
Okay.
information, but I wasn't sure, with all that information, are you planning to take out the big trees?
No, I already said that.
All right, I missed.
The whole idea
that there
is
was-
the big trees are the best trees, Linda. You
Well,
leave
that's why,
the best trees.
all right,
And a 77-year-old tree isn't old. When it gets past 150, maybe even 200, I would call it old. I'm 70, I'm old, but a 77-year-old tree is not old. It is not old. It's considered to be still young. Okay. I know that sounds odd, but you got to be thinking in terms of Douglas fir. It's different.
right. But
A 70,
is there, say at North Kitsap Heritage Park, is there a single tree in that park that's 80 years old?
yeah, down in some of the boggy areas where there's some Sitka spruce, they were last cut probably during just leading into World War II. Actually, the oldest trees at North Kitsap Heritage Park are on the property that was purchased for the Miller Bay parking lot. That's 17 or 18 acres. They're second growth there. They're old, but yeah, I would say the average age right now of, and I'm just based on the inventory work the data I had on that property. The average age of the trees at North K is probably around over, if you average it out, is maybe starting to approach 40, something like that.
Right, so that was my point is that I guess what I'm wondering is, what are the ages, if you could just summarize, what are the ages of the trees that you're planning to remove?
I'm going to be cutting smaller 77-year-old Douglas fir. Smaller 77. Okay, let's back up a second. Okay, a Douglas fir tree, the species Douglas fir, is what's called an even-age tree. And when there's been a natural fire or a clear cut, then they plant trees, of course, now, unless you're McCormick, they didn't do that. They relied on seed trees. And so in a natural Douglas fir stand, the trees are relatively the same age. Like if you go to Mount Rainier or the Olympic National Park, and based on the last time there was a natural disturbance, primarily a fire, the trees you're looking at are basically the same age until they get to be so few of them that they may seed in another generation. That also does happen. But basically they create a cohort that's basically the same age. Cedar, hemlock, the pines, spruce, they're uneven age trees. Okay. So what I'm saying is, so you walk into a stand there in unit 1 and you'll see a tree that's 10 inches in diameter. And maybe 20 feet away is a tree that's 16 inches in diameter. They are siblings. They are siblings. but one of them didn't get enough of the light and moisture and nutrients, so it's smaller. It's literally a smaller tree. It's the same age as and I grew up on a farm, you use the expression, a runt of the litter. Okay, well, in a Douglas fir stand, they're competing against each other, and some of the trees dominate the others. And once they get ahead of them, the ones that are not the tallest and the biggest, they fall further and further behind. And so the idea is to go in and reduce the number of get the small trees out of there and give everything over to the bigger trees, and then also give everything over to the trees that will grow in the shade, especially if they can get more sunlight than they're getting now, like hemlock, cedar, and white pine. White pine and cedar and hemlock, they respond right away to more light. Douglas fir has to rebuild its crown, even the dominant trees, because it's been duking it out with its siblings. It doesn't have as much of a live crown as it could have, and it can take up to 10 years for the trees to respond. Not because they were damaged or harmed or anything like that, but they simply have to grow more leaves, more needles, and then they can start putting on more incremental growth. So this whole project is about big trees and ecological diversity, taking it from a monoculture to something that's not a monoculture, something that's more natural, and then favoring and even planting shade tolerant trees in the understory. 77-year-old trees are not, 100-year-old tree is not an old tree. It is to us, but it is not to the Douglas fir. It's still a youngster. It's a
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
So Linda, I was at meetings. I think Newberry was the first variable density thinning project. Was that correct, Arner?
Yep, 2014.
I mean, you're talking people about ready to lay their bodies down to prevent it to start with, until we heard Arno's explanation.
Yeah.
And there's one section in particular, which is the south end of the park when you first come in. That was on the right, if you're coming in from the roundabout on the right-hand side.
Yeah,
What year was
16?
16? Yeah.
Unit 16.
You would not know that has been thinned. The undergrowth has grown up. It's beautiful forest. Trees are spaced apart, and the young trees that were planted are growing.
Yep.
So I just wanted to speak up and say, I do believe this guy knows what he's talking about, and he's not going to hurt our parks.
Yeah.
I was just trying to get there was a lot of detail, and Arno, maybe next time it'd be great to have some photos, because
I understand.
We can see, sometimes you go into our forest and they're so darn dense, it feels like, clearly there's really not enough light. But I know, 77-year-old trees, I just wanted to understand more. So there will be, of the trees that you take out, what kind of density are you leaving when you thin those areas of old trees?
Well, I would expect at that age, and again, you're welcome to visit the project we're doing right now, which isn't very far away. It's at Square Lake Park. We did most of it last year, and we're doing the rest of it right now. It's underway, and any one of you that want to, you could get a hold of me. We could meet. I'd love to show any of you or all of you. It could be one-on-one. I'm not trying to sell you anything, but you can see and visualize that answer. And you're right, I probably should have had a few PowerPoint slides up to kind of illustrate it. But the bigger the trees are, the fewer trees per acre you leave. So at Square Lake, it's very similar to this. The site's maybe a little bit better, but in doing plots out there post thinning, and I do it as they're thinning too, to make sure they're doing what I want them to do. It ranges anywhere from 40 to 80, and in some cases even over 80, maybe even 100 trees per acre. But that whole idea is, that's why it's called variable density thinning. You want to create something that mimics what like a fire might have done, where it doesn't kill all the trees on all the acres, but for some reason, it skips this group here and that kind of thing. And so the idea is you want to be kind of I call it artisanal kind of a style. So it's not a space thinning where trees are exactly, they're all between 20 and 21 feet apart. I'm not saying they're in rows, but it kind of looks like that. When you look at it visually through the trees, it does look random. But the bigger trees need more light. Another rule of thumb for Douglas fir is that you take the diameter, add 5 to it, and convert it to feet. So if you have a 20-inch tree, that tree needs 25 feet of space all around it. And there's a prescription for the other species as well, but they're more shade tolerant. So they can be closer together. They can even be closer to a Douglas fir. But Douglas fir is a shade intolerant tree. The two species that are shade intolerant are red alder and Douglas fir. And because of that, they also have another moniker. And that is they are pioneer species. They're the ones that come in after like in a natural ecosystem, they come in after fire. And red alder produces a bazillion seeds. I'm exaggerating, but it's a lot of seeds every year. Whereas Douglas fir produces a good cone crop on a 7-year cycle. Not all the trees are on the same cycle, but there are years when there's not very good seed crop for Douglas fir. And that's why when a forest is reforested, that's naturally reforested, that's why you have a spread in the cohort of up to 10 years. They say then that they're considered to be even aged because they might not have had a good seed year, that kind of thing.
Hey, Arno?
Yep.
Could you talk about the timeline and your steps for getting this
I didn't. No.
stewardship plan approved by the county commissioners, and then your timeline for carrying out the thinning efforts in the park?
No, I haven't. Well, we started this in 2019, and one of the people that communicated with me recently he said, "Yeah, I got waylaid." That was his expression. I thought you would have already done your restoration work in there by now. And they were just kind of curious about it. So we met out there with community members in late April of 2019, and it was a dry, sunny, beautiful evening. It was fabulous. We haven't had very many of those yet so far. And we finally got back on track after COVID, and we had a meeting again in June 7th on Tuesday. All the field work was done in 19, and a lot of the community members participated in that, which is what I try to do to get people out there so they can learn about it. We did more field work in 21 and 22 because we felt that coming up optimistic about maybe getting this thing back on track. So the process is this body, the PAB, you guys would decide to move it on to the Board of Commissioners by a vote, the plan, and then the Board of Commissioners would take public comment, and they would ultimately, well, as it's always happened, they adopt it by resolution and it becomes the official plan for the park. And then I would be starting some thinning operations out there after that. So the plan had been to do that this year, this season, to actually do units 1, 2, and 3 this year. So.
Arno, before I forget, you do have a correction on page 1. You still have Mr. Dunwoody on as.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Well, when the plan was written, he was still.
I know.
It's accurate, but it needs to be changed. I agree. I didn't even know Director Alex Wisniewski at that time, so. But you're right. I need to update that. Thank you very much.
Any other?
Arno, when you talk about the age of trees out there,
Yeah.
What was the average age of trees that you cut down at Calvinwood? Do you have any idea of that? They had to have been 100-year-old trees.
No, they were actually, I mean, all of this land, believe it or not, and because there's a lot of trading going on and stuff like that. Other than maybe some slight variations in soil and stuff and fertility, all this land was, and there's a lot of bartering going back, 50, 100 years ago between Alpine and the McCormicks. All this land, I think, was the trees at Calvinwood and the big trees that were that McCormick had sort of done a high grade on a lot of the Coulter Creek Park as we know it today. So there were places where there weren't very many trees and places where they were thick. But the trees that were there were basically the same age, plus or minus. I think the Coulter trees would probably be 3 or 4 years younger than the ones at Calvinwood. I don't know, John, if Calvinwood was acquired from the McCormicks back in the 50s. I don't know who you have more of the history of that.
It was a campground before the war.
Okay, but
No, wait a minute, it wasn't either, because they used military housing out there as cabins. But yeah, those trees on the west side, that the big grove that I tried to take care of, and you had to take them out with laminated,
yeah,
the root rot trees.
Yeah.
But
all I'm
big
saying
back
is that, let's say, I'll put you this way, the trees, the original old growth was cut all over this whole area, okay? And because you're away from the shoreline, it was all done with railroad logging, and it happened probably within a 15 or 20 year period. And then the second growth came in, and then in some cases that second growth was cut, and then you have the third generation that's there. The tree planting law was enacted in 1947, and after that, most people opted to plant trees. McCormick never planted trees until they got into plantation Christmas trees. Then they did some of that. But as far as their traditional mode of operation, they would cut an area and leave a seed tree and let the seed trees replant the site. And it worked for them. That wasn't the case here at Wicks Lake. There aren't any seed trees on the land that I could see, other than some old growth legacy trees, genuine real old trees. And I'm sure they produce seed, but yeah, it's so the plan was to do the thinning in units 1, 2, and 3 this season.
Thank you. Any other questions for Arno? And Arno, do you need anything further from the advisory board for moving the plan forward? Well,
The idea, what it really ultimately ends up to the tradition is, maybe not the tradition, but there's an advisory vote to move it on to the Board of Commissioners. And but if members of this body are not ready to do that and need more information or want to do a site visit, we can do something like that too. I haven't heard anything from Lisa. She's smiling. That's okay.
I was just looking it up. Actually, I had to get out my map, Google Maps, and find out where all these places are. So,
oh, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, sounds like it up by McCormick Woods there.
Well, yeah, south. It's a lot of people go out there bass fish and kayaks and canoes.
So on Google Maps, it really isn't showing the name of the lake. It doesn't show Wicks Lake, does it? It's just kind of
it might not, but it's a lake, and that's the name of it. I have this book from 1965 that of all the lakes in Western Washington by county, and that's where I got my story about the fact that it was a smaller lake.
Ah, cool. I like that story. Is it right by Nels Johnson Lakes? Is that the one right behind?
Nels Johnson. No, it's south of Trophy Lake. It's south of Lake Flora Road.
Oh, there it is. Okay, I found
There
it.
you go. There you go. But some of the
Okay.
maps you see don't show it to be as big as it is.
Okay.
And I think it's actually gotten bigger in the last 2-3 years because the beaver are busy. They're really busy there. It is fish bearing. It drains. Excuse me. It drains. The, the outfall is Minter Creek in Pierce County.
Well, I'm definitely going to take a road trip out
Oh
there.
yeah, it's gorgeous.
So that little strip of land that you said used to be the park, is that where people would park in there and then go swimming, take their
Well,
families?
it's someone built a road down there, and I don't know the story on that, but
Okay.
the actual county road ends, and then there's a road that heads to the right. It's the right end. It's all barricaded right now because it's become kind of a party central.
Yeah.
It's been a real problem for the department and for the community, and that's also one of the I've got a bias, but one of the benefits of the thinning is open it up, and it's less private. It doesn't stay that way. In 10 years, it'll be the brush will and the trees will be growing back up in there. But the first effect is that it's harder to hide down in there and carry on down there and stuff like that. It's I don't know. When I was a teenager, I would have never gone on down a dead end road and had a party because a dead end road means they can catch you, But I guess our deputies don't go out there very often. We never did. I grew up in southern Minnesota. There weren't that many dead end roads, but you think about it. You would never, if you were a thief, you wouldn't want to do something at the end of a road.
Route to Lake Road Southwest.
But anyhow,
Sorry. I was looking at direct.
people party up there. People dump garbage up there. The community really wants, and Alex has heard this, wants the park to be reclaimed, basically. And I think with a new planner and some time. The other thing I'll say about it too is that I think is based on my looking at documents and Public Works is looking at it too, because it's not just SCO. There's a lot of interest in a regional trail system. And so when McCormick sold the property to the county bought it from him, regardless of how it happened, who approached who, they actually established 2 trails easements that emanate from Wicks Lake. One goes up to the northwest to where the roundabout is on Lake Flora Road in Dickerson, okay? And that's literally gives you access to Coulter Creek. And then there's another one that goes north into the east and comes out almost across from Square Lake Road. It's a little bit west of Square Lake Road, but it's an existing service road, logging road. It'll be a street someday, I'm telling you. And it's a trail easement. There's 2 trail easements linking Wicks Lake to the larger Coulter, Calvinwood, and Square Lake, which is Coulter, Calvinwood, and Square Lake, just to let you know, is 1,550 acres. If you combine them, that's how much land there is there, the parkland there. It's our second largest park.
Right, quite a bit.
Ooh.
So Arno, I'm going to interject here to move this along. It appears to me that we kind of have 2 paths forward. You are looking for the advisory board to make a recommendation to approve the plan to the Board of County Commissioners.
Right.
The advisory board, if comfortable, could make that recommendation tonight, or could spend the next month perusing the plan, and we could bring this back to before the board at the July meeting and answer some more questions, maybe show some pictures of before and after from previous projects, and hope for a recommendation in July. And we'll leave it up to the board to discuss how you would like to move forward.
All right, I'm fine with that.
am also going to do a road trip, Lisa. If you want to go together, let me know. I've been watching this guy since what year did you say? 2015, the first variable density
14, yeah.
thinning. And I trust what he's saying, and I would like to make a motion to move forward. And then we can have some discussion.
I'll second the motion.
I've seen his work previously as well in North Kitsap Heritage, as well as the work out at Coulter Creek during the process, after the process. And I totally agree with the expertise of his opinions and how it's actually done, not just how they say it's going to be done. And when someone did it wrong out at North Kitsap Heritage Park, it was stopped and corrected, and moving forward, they went with a different logging company. So, I mean, one that would listen and do exactly what he said. We can't hear you.
You're muted, Arno.
You're muted.
That was at Newberry, Joanne, but that's
Oh,
stories.
I'm sorry, Newberry. Yeah, Newberry.
Oh, yeah, I know exactly the place he's talking about.
Yes, and you know, so I would be very comfortable in moving this forward.
I'm comfortable also with the selective density thinning that Arno has done. I think Secret Squirrel is beautiful, and it's just an incredible job you've done there. So yeah, I'd be more than happy to move this forward right now.
I don't have a
So
problem moving it forward either. I just would like to see some photos so that I haven't been out there. So, we just got it, and I was trying to look at it in Google Earth, and frankly, I don't really have a sense of what the park feels like without seeing it or having some photos. But I'll prove it. It'll be okay.
So who's going to make a motion to approve these?
I
That we
already
move
did
it
make
forward to the,
Already did it.
oh,
Moved and
okay, so
seconded.
we need a second, sorry.
I second it.
Okay, so we move it forward. All
Just
in
need a vote.
favor,
There you go.
say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All opposed? Motion is carried. It will be moved to the commissioners. Thank you, Arno.
Thank you all too. And I'd like to get all of you out there at one point or another, group or individual, just
Let's make a date.
let's make it a date. Let's make it happen.
Can we bring a kayak?
I'll carry it for you. Sure. Every day someone's down there in a kayak, multiple people.
Yeah,
But you gotta go by Squirrel Lake and see what that's all about too.
oh yeah, great.
Okay,
Okay.
Thank you
okay,
all.
So, thank you, Arno. The next
Arno.
is going to be the director's report.
All right, thank you. You have my written report. I'm going to share my screen here real quick, and of course do the monthly update on where the department is at with staffing. You have the same graphic in the report, but I did some highlights on this screen share here to kind of show the positions that are in process. And I've highlighted green. Green means go. These are hired positions concluded. We are super happy. It doesn't mean they're on board yet, but the positions are hired. They've accepted our offer, and we are moving forward in the very near future. Or with regards to the M&O worker position for events, they just started this past Monday. So we have filled our parks planner position. He was slated to begin with us on July 18th. I am very excited to bring him on board and pass off a couple of the different hats I've been wearing lately off to this individual. Once I do have them on board, I will bring them before you for a meet and greet so that you will get a chance to see the person, the individual, talk about their name kind of once it's official and they're actually foot in the door here. Our office support specialist position is Lee Snyder's vacancy. And actually, we just had since I submitted this to you, their start date has changed. They're actually starting next week with us. So rather than July 5th, it'll be next Tuesday after Juneteenth holiday. The positions highlighted in yellow are those that are at some level of in process. And so for most of these, all of the interviews are already done, and we're just on the back end of the hiring process now, either doing reference checks. For some of these positions, a physical is required for our M&O workers, and so we are working on those with the candidates. They need to pass a physical before a final offer can be made. So those type of things post-interview are in process. But again, 4 positions in process, 3 of them done, and we have 3 vacancies that need to be reposted, re-interviewed for a variety of reasons that the candidates didn't work out, or in some cases, like our capital projects person, we simply didn't get that many candidates, and so we'll need to repost and go through the process again. But so close, the closest we've ever been since I started here in a year and a half to being fully staffed. So I am super excited, and I can't tell you what this means for us for staff capacity. We're not fully there yet, but we are making headway, and I am excited, can kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel.
That's good to see.
Yeah, thank you. So the other item I wanted to draw some attention to in the report was really the 2 planning program items. 2 items I will hand off to the new planner once they're on board. But just a quick update on the Port Gamble Forest Heritage Park plan. We are now 2 months past when we thought we would be bringing it back before you with the catalog of comments that we got back from the public, from stakeholders, from our focus groups, and with responses as to how those plans will be incorporated and edited into the plan. We actually have all that data compiled, but it's in a huge spreadsheet and it's not in a shareable format yet. So because of that, we've pushed it off to July. So my apologies on that. It just took a long time, took longer than anticipated for the consultant to kind of catalog all those items, but we're working through it as best we can. And the last item on here is Sound to Olympics Trail. We do have, as was mentioned earlier, next Tuesday, on the June 21st, not July 21st, up in Kingston, there'll be the first public meeting to talk about the route feasibility study for the plan. This is not wholly specific to county parks. It is really investigating the potential routes between Kingston Ferry Terminal and the southern tip of Port Gamble Forest Heritage Park, and how that connection might be made. There's been a couple days so far of site visits. Grady is a representative on that steering committee. He mentioned this in his at the last meeting. We've had a couple site visits to do some ground truthing of different route opportunities, and all of that data is being gathered, will be analyzed, be having a variety of public meetings to gain public input, and all of that will kind of be crafted into some different options and opportunities going forward. Included in that analysis will be, you know, any deed restrictions on properties, including parks, restrictions or other items that deal with how funding played a role in the acquisition of those lands and the restrictions that it has. We have some of that on our park lands as to RCO funding was utilized for purchase. And so just basically providing a brief update that Parks is not in the driver's seat of this. This is being run by the Public Works non-motorized, not committee, but really the staff that oversee the committee, their non-motorized component and transportation to Public Works. But Parks is involved because it's a, you know, potential route options going through North Kitsap Heritage Park. And so as those routes and information becomes available, we will bring those before the advisory board for review and comment. And before then, because we don't have anything to share at this point, I do encourage you to participate or at least join and observe the meeting on the 21st. And Arno talked about his forest stewardship program. That was the other thing I wanted to mention, not just Wicks Lake, but the last portion of Square Lake Park. The ecologically based selective thinning is currently underway. It just started a couple 3 weeks ago. And I also highly recommend taking Arno up on a field trip. I've done it a number of times with him. I'm always learning something new when I go out, and it's really, you know, has a different level of impact when you go on site and can kind of see the before and afters of the thinning program that we initiate through the Parks Department, and kind of what our scope and purpose is. If you'd like to do that, please contact the Parks Department and we can make those arrangements. And aside from that, those are really the main things I wanted to draw attention to from the director's report. But we'll field any other questions or comments based on anything else that is in the report. Otherwise, we can move on to the next item if there are no questions, but we'll just put that out there. And
Seeing no questions. Oh,
Not-
did someone have a question?
No, I was just going to say I'm not seeing any hands.
Oh, go ahead then. Subcommittee appointments.
Actually, I will kick this one off if it's okay.
Sure.
At the last meeting, we did some conversation, and I'm going to share my screen again. Advisory board members identified of the 4 different subcommittees, which ones they had an interest in. John Pearson, we are missing you from this list. And also wanted, so we need to add John to the list, but the other item is the planning and property one. I didn't notice this until after the meeting. We have 6 people signed up for this subcommittee, and we need to take a couple names off of this list. Reason being, if we breach more than 50% plus 1, we now have a quorum, and the subcommittee would be subject to public notices and all the open public meetings, all the stuff. And so the intent of these is not to do that, but to create a more flexible, a more quick reacting subcommittee to the advisory board. Does not have authority to make votes or recommendations because there is no quorum, but can provide assistance and benefit to staff to be that advisory board sounding panel for these specific items. So I am looking for to pull hopefully at least a couple names off of the Planning and Property Subcommittee and to add John on here somewhere. So with that, I will turn the conversation over to the board. So we might add John and do a self-correct.
I would like to go back on capital projects and parks. And I would go on finance and budget.
Okay.
Of course, I'd really like to go on planning and property, but that's overloaded. So I know it's my fault because I wasn't here last month.
Yeah, we're a little challenged there. There's obviously a lot of interest, which is fantastic. We're just, I think we have a couple too many people.
No, that's fine, but
yeah, and two of the folks, I will say, Amy Lawrence, Amy Smalley, are not with us. So if we would, unless there's someone here who's willing to take their name off, actually Larry Walker's not with us tonight either. We can actually postpone this conversation to next month when hopefully all 6 of the people are in the room. But I'm open if others have different perspectives or thoughts.
So do we have to get it down to 4 per?
Ideally, yes. Yes, that's where we're targeting.
So we only have availability and finance and budget as 1 person. So somebody's, oh, there are multiple people in different, I see. Okay.
Yeah, we do. People have signed up for 2 and maybe someone signed up for 3. So can certainly go, we don't need, 4 people on every single one. But I mean, ideally, I think 3 people, 3 or 4 is a good, now I'm kind of backtracking here. 3 is a good number. 4 is fine as well. Obviously, we don't want to go above that though.
So, okay. Since 2 of those people are on multiple committees, maybe we should wait and let them choose which one they really want to be a part of over the other. I don't know.
And I'm totally fine with that.
What does anybody else think?
I'd suggest we discuss that since 3 of the 5 people on that committee aren't here. Maybe we'll have more people attend the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, so moving on to subcommittee reports.
Yeah, I mean, I can report there. We've had 1 subcommittee meeting for community outreach and visitor services. And Lisa, I apologize. I did not include you in that invite. But at this time, because of and Lisa, I can update you on what that conversation was about. But because of the nature of that conversation, it's not really ripe at this point to bring to the greater advisory board. But other than that, there haven't been any subcommittee meetings that I'm aware of.
Okay. Hearing no more. District representatives reports.
I've got one. The Port Gamble Forest Stewards met this Monday. Mostly talked a bit about the park master plan process, the upcoming July meeting. Had several newer people, many of them who are actually here as part of the public, attend, and with a lot of questions. Went through a number of trail construction projects. And also had a pretty interesting discussion about a nonprofit and how to hold donations for diverse needs of the park. So I had a small subcommittee look into a couple options. One of them is under the Kitsap Community Foundation. One of them was utilizing North Kitsap Trails, who has accepted funds and held funds for the park in the past. And the other one was the idea of forming a nonprofit specifically for the park's use. And then a third one, which is pretty similar to the first one, is having Port Gamble Forest Heritage Park Fund set up under the Kitsap Community Foundation. Any options under the Kitsap Community Foundations where you have a lot of money coming and going would have a 5% fee. And that's a fair amount of money. There was concern that the existing structure of the county parks foundation is really set up for more for kind of fundraising, maybe a little less parks operations, as far as, well, we need $800 for gravel here, and we need some tools, that type of thing. It seemed like that might be a little awkward. And the North Kitsap Trails Association had looked into the bylaws, and the bylaws were more focused on trails and not stewardship, kind of restoration, replantings and all. So there'll be some more work done on that. Also had some discussions on signs. We've now starting to mock up new signs on just new stickers that are consistent on the Carcinite posts, the fiberglass posts that are in the park. And we'll also be getting some prices on the park map, reprinting the park maps, and also updating all the what we've referred to as the "You Are Here" signs in the park. So that'll also be coming for the next couple meetings. Still working on, there will be a new sign, kind of a mantle sign that has been in the works for a long time. And there is the last big event of the season is going to be happening this weekend, which is an EMBA event and a mountain bike ride. That's all I've got. Nancy, did you have a question for me? You just see your hands up.
Not a question. I was just going to mention that Newberry has a separate nonprofit entity called Friends of Newberry Hill. And it does take quite a bit of effort and paperwork and so on to keep current with the state and so on to keep that nonprofit. So, if you wanted to talk to somebody, Frank Strickland would be a good person to talk to, because he's the president of that nonprofit.
Right. I think Newberry, Hansville, Greenway, I think there's about half the large parks in the county have formed their own nonprofit group. And my experience personally is similar to Nancy's, is that there's having a nonprofit per park is kind of unwieldy. There's a lot of process and, kind of diligence that you have to do. So I'm not quite sure what the park stewardship group will recommend, but they're doing that homework. And I think one of the options that might come back is that could the Parks Department Foundation have an umbrella nonprofit that was more geared to hold money for specific different parks, so that we weren't all forming our own individual nonprofits for what's a fairly, it's not a huge amount of money. Though I do understand that I think at least two of the parks have, once they formed their own nonprofits, received donations in the, $50,000 to $7,500,000 range from, individual benefactors who really cared about the park. So, but that will, there's nothing immediate that needs to happen on that. There's only a $3,000 check that needs to find a home. So, and in the meantime, things will keep going. But that was the main focus of that last meeting.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'd speak to Newberry Hill Heritage Park, and yes, indeed, what I'm going to talk about pertains to something that Silverdale Rotary Club has funded, and Silverdale Rotary Club has donated, I think we are rapidly approaching $10,000 over the years to the park through the nonprofit. I mean, we have to give it to a 501c3. And that's the way we've been able to do it. And they've also gotten some other grants for a bridge and so on. So it does help with getting monies from places that only donate to 501c3s. But tomorrow we're having a dedication of a area in the park that was a CK school principal for many, many, many years. To the point that when I'm selling duck tickets for the duck race, we used to constantly get, no, I buy my duck tickets from Jack Jensen's because he'll put me in detention if I don't. And this is from people ranging from 40 to 68. I mean, my attorney was in his high school when Jack was the principal. And he passed away recently during COVID, not from COVID, but during COVID. And he was a Rotarian for 45 years. So we have created a little place with a couple benches and so on that we are dedicating to him tomorrow. Arner, I heard you might be coming. Good. Good. We planted some deciduous trees, which are sadly lacking, and we're hoping it'll bring some birds in and so on, and some flowering bushes. And I planted a couple of lupin plants that I bought, and they are actually about 18 inches high and in bloom. I was so excited the last time I was up there. So hopefully they're still blooming for tomorrow. So anyway.
Okay, was that, anyone else would like to speak?
I was going to say about Newberry Hill Park that I was up there a week or so ago when they were finishing up a couple of the projects. Those people up there, I mean, I used to be involved in doing some of those trail things, but haven't had much of a chance lately. But they are doing some beautiful work on their trails, and it is amazing that they get recognized by National Forest for the consistent quality of their trails. And then I was down at Chico Creek the other day. I was trying to go down and look at down at the park. And I think Alex and I have talked about this before. There was no parking. There was not a single place in that parking lot to park. And I just kind of pulled over the side of the road and went back. There was nobody in the park. So we have kind of figured that they're using it as a park and ride. And so I don't know if you've noticed that at all, Nancy, if you've been down there, but
I have noticed that because our club meetings are at the country club there. So I've noticed how many cars are parked along there constantly. And I agree. I think it is a park and ride. And I don't know if there's any way that if somebody was to volunteer to monitor it, and if somebody's parked there consistently day after day, to put something on their car to say that this is not a park and ride.
Maybe it could have a posted as a 3-hour limit or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Central Market had to do that because people were using the parking lot as a park and ride, and just put, maybe a few signs limiting the time.
At least makes people aware that it's not a park and ride and that it is a parking lot.
John, was it off to the side on that other section across the road, or right along Chico Way? Or both? You're muted.
it was right on Chico Way, the main parking area where the fences are.
Yeah, that's,
So
I don't know whether it's happening across the road at the other parking lot, but
there's some in there, but
We'll look into it. Thanks.
Okay, any other? Okay. Any old business? I just have one check-in from last month. Anderson Point Park, do you know where we are with Public Works and CDC? they were going to investigate the permit information and coordinate that. Have you heard anything in the last month?
Yeah, Joanne, we did do some talking with staff from Public Works Departments about that. Back in 2019, there was conversation between the Parks Department and Public Works for doing some clearing in the park and some grading in there towards that parking lot expansion. Some of it got done, but obviously not all of the work got done. It sounds like, from what I could gather, the project kind of came to a halt when the Parks Department lost staff, and then the impacts from COVID really put everything on a halt. The Public Works, currently their capacity to do what they were talking about doing in 2019 is a lot less because they're without a lot of staff as well. But they were also, what I gathered, this wasn't going to be free work. They were going to charge the Parks Department for the efforts that they are doing for the parking lot expansion. So, and they have to, because they operate out of a different fund, and those funds can't be spent on other types of projects. So there's some restrictions as to how funds can get spent. My point being, we don't have to be reliant on Public Works to do the project. This would, in all honesty, kind of be no different than hiring a contractor and paying a contractor to go do the work. So I think at this point, we kind of need to regroup. Hopefully, when the planner comes on board, we'll be able to do that at a greater level and figure out how we can move this project forward, as easily as possible and as quickly too. This one's been half done and kind of hanging out there for a couple of years.
And it's getting very overgrown.
Yeah, no, it should be one of those where we can, kind of put a happy face on it and knock it off fairly quickly. We just kind of need to line up the resources. So
yeah, because they cut the trees and took the trees, but they left the stumps, and the underbrush now is like 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
And the maintenance in the parking lot itself, like, just weed whacking around the edges, is getting really shabby looking, just an FYI, because I went down to check and see, and it's just starting to look, unkept.
Understood. We have other, yeah.
I understand that you were short. I'm just putting it out there.
No, I appreciate it. But and appreciate you bringing up the information that other departments were involved. In all honesty, I didn't know that before. So that was really helpful.
Well, and I do have one. I sent you an email about finding old minutes from old meetings since Lee left. And I can't access them past a certain amount, and half of them aren't there that are listed. So is that going to be corrected? And when you have a new staff person? Because a lot of that was, yes, there was a permit. No, there wasn't a permit. And I can't document it because there's no reference, and they're public meeting minutes. So they got to be somewhere.
Yeah. No, agreed. Kind of updating and organizing our file system. It will be one of the tasks assigned to the new Lee once that person starts. So
okay.
We're working on it.
All right. That's all I have for now. Anybody else have old business?
I just had a question up by the, hoping that eventually we have beach weather in Kitsap County, up by Point No Point. We had that issue before with the, I think it's the DNR site where they closed it. Are they going to leave that open so that parking's available to the public this year, or have you heard from them?
Yeah, it's WDFW. So Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife owns the property and maintains it. Today's June 15th. They are opening the gates today, and they are intended to stay open for the high visitation summer season. And we have had some conversations with them about, is there a shared maintenance opportunity for, not for their whole property, but at least, we're up at Point No Point every single day. Can we pop in and ensure that at least the restroom has paper products in it or something like that? So we're kind of having some conversations like that, because we know too that while we don't own the property, there's still a benefit to the greater community if that facility is open. It provides additional parking to help keep cars off the road and reduce congestion. So while we don't own it, we still have a benefit in seeing it maintained.
I'm sorry, I do have one other piece of old business. I was asked by a public, the new owner of the Walla Bay Market had sent diagrams and pictures of a kiosk they want to build for the parking lot, the boat launch that would be done at their expense and installed. Where are we at with that permission on that? Because they're actively asking to give us opportunity to have life jackets hanging there for people there. He said he's talked to the commissioner, Garrido, and you yourself. He wants to know where it's at in the process.
Met with Greg Olson a number of times. He's a really nice person, and definitely appreciate what he wants to do. I mean, it comes down to staff capacity. We just haven't had the opportunity to get the right-of-way permit to make that happen.
Oh, so it's about another permit.
Yeah, there was a number of components to what we talked about. He wants to install a stairway that goes down to the beachfront. He wants to do a kiosk and some signage. And I thought there was a third thing too, something on the other side that wasn't parks related, but it was right-of-way related. And so the traffic, Public Works traffic manager was involved in the conversation as well. So
so where are we at with just the kiosk that would be at the actual boat launch?
I thought we provided, we agreed to it at the parks at the staff level. I don't think that one requires a right-of-way permit, but the stairs does. So
that's on the other side. That's on that different location.
Yeah. But it leads down to park property, so it still involved parks.
Right, but I mean, can we take it out at one piece at a time instead of lumping them all together?
Again, it was a staff capacity thing, but yes, we can. I will get back with Greg and.
Okay, because I'd like to move that forward. That would be great.
Understood.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else?
I have one more
Linda?
thing. Since we heard a number of comments and concerns about the Sound to Olympics Trail, I was involved in the Kitsap Forest and Bay, all the efforts to raise money for the second half of the North Kitsap Heritage Park, the Divide, the Port Gamble Block. And I just wanted to share, I don't know if my camera will pick this up.
Put it in front of your face.
Maybe I'll put it by my face. Here it is.
In front of your face.
Yeah.
Because you have everything else. Oh, nope, it's still not going to do it.
I'll scan this. This is the brochure and the graphic that was used in all the fundraisings that Forterra and GPC did. And the big title on it was Kitsap Forest and Bay help save the land and trails. And on the back flip side of it, and I know you can't see this, I'll scan it and send it, is the map of the Sound to Olympics Trail. And so all these maps that were used as the outreach piece, I mean, literally we marched in parades in Central Kitsap and Bainbridge and all over the place. We passed out, I believe, over 100,000 of these, and each and every one said, help save the land and trails, and had that Sound to Olympics Trail map. And if you Google Kitsap Forest and Bay and go to Forterra websites and go to Great Peninsula Conservancy website under the Kitsap Forest and Bay, it always talks about the trails as part of that. So I just wanted to mention that, because that's long been discussed. I know that people are saying that it hasn't been discussed that much for the Port Gamble plan, but wow, 100,000 brochures and every single graphic that was posted all over this county for all those years of fundraisers. The big title was "Help Save the Land and Trails." So, I know, there are people that may not like it, but it certainly has been out there and in the public for a long time. And when North Kitsap Trail started our outreach, which was, I think, 2007, we had 27 public meetings just in 2010. I looked it up the other day because I know there's been a lot of questions about it. So I just wanted to mention that, but I will scan this brochure because I know I passed out a lot of them and a lot of other people did too. That's all.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you. Anyone else? Old business. Okay, moving on to new business. Anyone have any new business to discuss? Hearing no new business, this is the place where someone could make a motion to adjourn this meeting as of now.
Oh, moved. So
John
moved.
Anderson,
Second.
second, okay. Thank you, and thank you for a great meeting. And see you next month.
Thanks.
Aye.
I-
Bye.